I'm going to call Tracy Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to acknowledge how great it is to have the author of the bill in the chair next to you, and hopefully he will have seen my contribution earlier in part 1 and the questions that I asked, and perhaps the Minister may actually rise to his feet during part 2 and answer some of those. I also want to address in part 2 the concept of fixing what was the bill from 2013 and the moving around of some of the parts inside the schedule there. I want to bring this conversation down out of the 20% of our young people that go to university and actually talk about the 60% of our young people who are currently in the workforce or trying through education to gain employment. I want to talk about the fact that actually it costs a baker $5,000 to do a pre-apprenticeship course, and he has to gain that, or she has to gain that, through StudyLink. I want to talk about the fact that it costs an animator $10,000 to go for a year to actually go and do that at a polytechnic. Let's just go to actually even doing an ECE qualification inside the workplace run by a wānanga or run by another polytech organisation, and that will cost you $1,800 via StudyLink. What about inserting, as we're working around Schedule 3 here in Part 2, how about inserting some sort of responsibility here on behalf of the lender, Minister, to make sure that the young people who go to StudyLink understand the repayment obligations? If you go to StudyLink now, at the applications web page, which I have here for you should you wish, sir, if you go to that web page now, it'll tell you every way under the sun to gain a loan, and not a single comment about your repayment responsibilities at all. Not a single comment on that front page on the repayment responsibilities of any young New Zealander. And no wonder then, sir, we now have outstanding debt. As a debt collector, as a parliament, we have actually put into place or are looking at legislation on loan sharking in South Auckland, where we say that if you are a lender, you must make it clear inside the documentation, I beg your pardon, sir, that a loan shark, a lender, must make it clear inside the documentation to any individual borrowing money from them around the repayment obligations. Where, inside any of this legislation, inside the rewrite of Part 2, inside Schedule 3, Part 2, is this being made clear? I meet young people day in and day out in my town who have, I met a young person the other day, has an $18,000 animation loan. He had no idea he couldn't leave the country. He had no idea that he didn't have to start repaying his student loan until it was over a certain threshold. He had no idea it was interest-free. He had no idea that if he left the country after 1 year, he would get interest on it, and that he had to make contact with the Inland Revenue Department. And why did he have no idea? Because there's a multitude of people out there signing our young people up to debt, and not a single requirement, it would appear, of those people to make sure they know how to repay it. So, Minister, that might be something you might like, beg your pardon, it might like to be something that the Minister could work on, so that it is clear before our young people sign up. And I am tired of hearing about this, the 20% at the top. Certainly university students have loans, no doubt about it, but so do many of the other young New Zealanders in that 60% bracket, which are they're not the most vulnerable, they're not the ones receiving free support, they are the ones in the middle who are trying to find employment, who are doing what we have asked them to do. They are not getting a degree, they are not getting a bachelor's or whatever, they are getting a pre-apprenticeship course or whatever. And it may be that the Finance Committee is not aware that if you have NCA Level 1, and the majority of New Zealand students actually, interestingly enough, have Level 1, it's Level 2 that is the target. If you have Level 1, you cannot gain a youth guarantee course. So you must get a loan. You must go in. Only 1% of all the people involved inside of youth guarantees are allowed to already have Level 1. And a Level 1 course, majority of them do not cover baking, do not cover animation, do not cover other things. The reality, and this goes to, sir, this clause put in Part 2 that includes a car now being incorporated in the concept of the salary package, Mr. Chair, inside the salary package of any worker. And again, I believe that this clause has been written in there because there is a bias that believes that all the people with these loans are university students or post-university, that they're all doctors and lawyers or whatever, and that they're all 110,000 plus a Mercedes. And I brought the case before of a dock ranger who I believe earns 43, actually a dock ranger can expect to earn between 33,000k and 47,000k depending on approximately 5 years worth of experience. Often there is a car involved in that. Now, I don't think anybody sitting inside this house is going to say that $33,000 plus a Range Rover or whatever those things are, Land Rover, whatever it is, that you go as you go out to make sure that all the bins in a regional park are clean or whatever, makes you a wealthy person. New Zealand First has serious concerns that there has not been a practical eye cast over this bill. This has been written with a bias, sir. It's been written with a bias that actually, when it hits the ground, is once again going to disadvantage all those who are in that low or middle income area. This is not going to target the people that somehow Mr. Paul Goldsmith thinks are the people that actually need to be pursued like this. It may be that in Mr. Goldsmith's electorate, well, not actually the electorate that he's the MP for, but the electorate that he lives in, it may be in that electorate that they have all got $150,000 jobs and driving a company Mercedes. But I can tell Mr. Goldsmith that where I live, in Rodney, which is 46% of the landmass of Auckland, with social deprivation scores of 8 in 2 of our townships, that those young people are getting jobs as dock rangers, are getting jobs at $33,000. They have got a car placed at their disposal for them to do their job. They will be penalised further through this clause because the clause has not been well thought out, like the majority of the rest of the bill.
Call Ian Lees Galloway.